We all know the story. Jesus, Peter, a charcoal fire on a beach, the smell of fish in the morning air, and three times, Jesus turns to his most famous disciple and asks the same question. Do you love me? 3 times, 3 answers. A perfect, symmetrical scene of redemption. That is a beautiful story. It is also not what happened. What actually happened in that conversation, when you read the original source code, is a negotiation, a tense, almost painful back and forth between two men who are both trying to say something they cannot quite say. One of them is pushing for a standard the other cannot meet, and by the end of the conversation, one of them lowers the bar. The English translation you grew up with, the one printed in every Bible, on every nightstand, in every hotel room in the Western world, flattens all of that into a single word: love. And that choice, that one editorial decision, has shaped how 2 billion people understand devotion, failure, and what God actually asks of human beings. Tonight, we pull it apart. Let's establish the crime scene. John chapter 21, verses 15 through 17. I'm reading from the New International Version, one of the most widely used English translations on the planet. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said, "you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." Notice anything? 6 uses of the word love, the same word every single time. A simple reciprocal exchange. Jesus asks, Peter answers. Jesus asks again, Peter answers again. It reads like a liturgy, a ritual, a healing. This word, love, is doing an enormous amount of work in this passage. It is the entire weight of the scene. Peter's rehabilitation after his 3 denials, the founding commission of the church, the proof of Peter's devotion. Everything rests on this word. So what happens when that word is wrong? Not mistaken, not imprecise, wrong. Let's check the original source code. The New Testament was written in Koine Greek, Common Greek, the street language of the 1st century Mediterranean world. And Koine Greek had something English does not: precision when it came to love. The first word is agape, pronounced agape. This is the word Greek philosophers and early Christian writers reserved for love at its highest register: unconditional, self-sacrificial, the kind of love that gives without any expectation of return. When the Gospel of John says, "For God so loved the world," that verb is agapeo, the action form of agape. It is divine love. It is love as a choice made regardless of the worthiness of its object. The second word is phileo, pronounced phileo. This is the love between friends, between companions, affection, fondness, warmth. It is the root of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. It is real, it is genuine, but it is fundamentally human. It is conditional on relationship, on proximity, on shared history. We might call it, "I care about you deeply, and I like you, and you matter to me." It is not nothing. It is also not agape. Now let's run the actual transcript. Jesus speaks first. Verse 15. In Greek he asks, "Simon Ioannou, agapas me?" Do you agape me? He is not asking Peter if he is fond of him. He is not asking about friendship. He is asking for the highest form of devotion, divine grade commitment, unconditional, sacrificial, absolute love. Peter's answer, "Nai Kyrie, su oidas hoti philo se." Yes, Lord, you know that I phileo you. Read that carefully. Peter cannot say agape.
He doesn't use the word. He steps down to Phileo. He is saying, Lord, I am your friend. I am devoted to you as a companion. I care for you as a brother. But he will not claim the absolute. He will not make the divine promise. After everything that has happened, the arrest, the fire, the 3 denials, he knows himself too well to claim agape. This is not a grammatical accident. These writers were careful. This is a man choosing a smaller word, because the larger one would be a lie. Jesus asks again, same question, same word. Agapos me? Do you agape me? And Peter gives the same answer. Philose. I phileo you. 2 rounds. Jesus has asked for agape. Peter has deflected to phileo. Twice. The standard has been stated. The shortfall has been acknowledged. Silently, but clearly, by both men. Now watch what happens in verse 17. Jesus asks a 3rd time. But this time, and this is the moment everything turns on, he changes the word. He does not ask for agape. He asks, Phileus me? Do you phileo me? Jesus lowered the standard. He stopped asking for divine love. He accepted the human version. He met Peter exactly where Peter was, using Peter's own word, acknowledging, implicitly, without ceremony, that this is the love Peter has to give, and that it is enough. And Peter was grieved. That is the word the Greek uses, elipethe. He was distressed. He was saddened. Not because he was asked 3 times, though that is how the English translation tends to frame his grief. He was grieved because he understood what had just happened. He heard Jesus change the word. He understood the concession. He understood that Jesus had accepted less than he had asked for. The numbers don't lie. 1 word changed, and it changed everything. Let's be precise about what was lost. The English translation gives us this, a sentimental, symmetrical scene where Jesus asks, "Do you love me?" And Peter says, "Yes," 3 times, mirroring and redeeming his 3 denials. Theologically tidy, emotionally resonant, easy to preach. The Greek gives us this, a man who has failed catastrophically, being asked to make a commitment he cannot honestly make, who admits, twice, that he can only offer a lesser version of what is being requested, and then watches as the person asking him adjusts their expectations downward to match his capacity. This isn't a mistake, it's an edit. The translators, across multiple traditions, across centuries, collapsed agape and phileo into a single English word. And in doing so, they did not merely simplify, they inverted the meaning of a scene. In the Greek, the dramatic weight of the passage is Peter's limitation and Christ's acceptance of that limitation. The scene is about grace, extended to someone who cannot reach the standard. It is about a commission given not to someone who has achieved divine devotion, but to someone who showed up with the best he had, which was human and imperfect, and was told, "That's enough. Feed my sheep." In the English, the scene is about Peter's restoration to full standing through his 3-fold declaration of love. The limitation disappears. The concession disappears. The grief, which is the emotional key to the entire exchange, becomes vague, attributed merely to repetition. What was erased was Peter's failure, and, critically, what was erased alongside it was Christ's response to that failure, which was not a demand for more. It was acceptance of what was. That is a theologically explosive difference, and someone, at some point, decided you should not notice it. Here is where we have to be careful. Motive is harder to prove than method, but we can follow the logic. The institutional church, particularly as it consolidated authority in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th centuries, was in the business of demanding agape, total devotion, absolute commitment. The language of martyrdom,
of celibacy, of monastic sacrifice. The theology of complete surrender to God.
This was not merely spiritual aspiration. It was institutional architecture. The church needed believers who would give everything. It needed leaders who modeled absolute love. It needed a founder in Peter, the first pope in Roman Catholic tradition, who demonstrated agape-level devotion as the baseline for Christian leadership. A story in which Peter could only offer Phileo, and in which Jesus accepted Phileo as sufficient, is an inconvenient story for an institution that structured itself around the demand for agape. It complicates the ask. If the founder of the faith couldn't give agape when pressed directly by Christ, and Christ said, "Fine, feed my sheep anyway," then what exactly are you demanding of ordinary believers? It is also worth noting that the language of sacred texts carries enormous political weight, precisely because most people cannot access the originals. If your entire congregation is reading a Latin or English translation, and that translation uses a single word where the Greek uses two, you control the theological landscape. You decide what the text means. You decide what was asked and what was answered. The simplification of agape and phileo into a single English love is not unique to one translation or one era. It is remarkably consistent across nearly all major English translations, which tells you something about the shared institutional instinct at work. This was the doctrinally convenient read, and convenience in the history of textual transmission has a way of becoming orthodoxy. I want to leave you with something, not a verdict, an implication. We live in a culture and a religious tradition saturated with the demand for absolute love, unconditional love, the kind of love that costs you everything and asks nothing in return. We are told this is the standard in marriage, in faith, in community, in how we relate to God. And when we fall short of it, and we do fall short, all of us, always, we experience that shortfall as a kind of moral failure, a spiritual inadequacy, a sign that something in us is broken or insufficient. But look at what happened on that beach. The man who was arguably closest to Jesus, who walked with him, witnessed his miracles, swore to die for him, could only offer phileo, friendship, affection, human warmth. When the moment of honesty came, that was the word he reached for, not because he didn't care, but because he was honest enough not to claim more than he had. And the response to that honest, limited human love was not rebuke. It was not a higher demand. It was not try harder or come back when you've achieved agape. It was feed my sheep. It was a mission, a purpose, a life's work, granted not to someone who had achieved the impossible standard, but to someone who had, in good faith, offered what they actually had. We are told to pursue an absolute, divine love. We are told this is the requirement. We carry the weight of that standard across our entire lives. But if the founder of the faith, in the most scrutinized, most documented conversation in the Christian canon, ultimately accepted a simpler, more human affection as sufficient grounds to say, "You're the one, go do the work," how much of the pressure we carry is spiritual truth, and how much of it is a mistranslation?